Welcome to another episode of Fox Talks. This is Tarak Sakardande. I work as a senior security consultant at Redfox Security. With me, I have Sashikant Prasad. So, Sashikant, could you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey, hi guys. My name is Shashi, and I work as a principal security consultant at Redfox Security. My area of expertise is in red teaming, cloud assessments, and sometimes I also help my team with web application pen test as well. So yeah, that's about me. And I am the lead instructor for the upcoming Black Hat training, which is in for AWS. It's called Offensive AWS, Breaking the Cloud. And I'm also the instructor for the Windows Red Teaming Bootcamp and the course as well that is present at academy.redfox.com. Yeah, so that's about me.
Quite amazing. So, now we are going to launch an Azure Pentesting Bootcamp in the month of June, that is on 6th, right?
That's true.
So, I would like to ask you certain questions based on that. So, why would security professionals learn Azure pen testing now, especially with so many enterprises moving deeper into Microsoft cloud environments?
I think Tarak, your question you with your question you have already answered it as well. As you mentioned, as you already put it in the question that many companies are moving to cloud. So that is one of the main reasons that the cybersecurity professionals should also learn about it Azure. Why? Because like I would say maybe 5 to 6 year back, mainly when we are on our engagements, they are mainly Active Directory environments. But as the time progresses, as of now, we are seeing that the engagements which we did as a like a on-prem Active Directory assessments, now those clients have shifted to Azure, and now they are requesting us to pen test their Azure environments. So the shift is real. It's not like everybody is going to moving to the cloud, but we have seen that most of our clients has already moved to Azure, and we are also getting many queries for Azure pen test. So that is one of the biggest reason for shifting into Azure.
Okay, that's perfect. What mindset shift is needed when moving from traditional network pen testing to Azure cloud pen testing?
Okay, so if you have been doing traditional pen test, I think cloud is I would say totally different, because in our traditional pen test let's suppose we are pen testing a network or which has like lots of systems. What we do, we run our nmap scripts, look for open ports, what are the services running on them, is there any vulnerability on those services, and we exploit them, right?
Yes.
And again, first we have to bypass the firewalls and everything, right? Because that is the security controls traditional pen test or traditional environments have, right? But when you look at cloud, it's all about exploiting these publicly available APIs. So we can exploit many of the services in Azure. Again, use just using the APIs, and these are public APIs. So if there is a misconfiguration that we have made, so we can easily just use these public APIs to escalate our privileges or do anything we want. That is if the service is vulnerable, right? But in case of traditional pen test, again, we have to first get into a system first. Again, to get in the system, we have to break through the network first, right? Have to go through all their firewalls and other security controls that they have. Then we go get into the system, and then from that we try to find issues and vulnerabilities, right? But in case of Azure, again, it's all public APIs. We don't have to bypass any firewall. But again, Azure has its own security controls, but at least we don't have to break through a firewall. It's just public API, so we can easily call the APIs and see whether things are working or not. Yes, so that's about it. So it's about misconfigurations in Azure. It's about misconfiguration of identity and management of the identities, or I would say it's the issues in the management of the Azure, that the permission that the RBAC permissions or the roles that they have, if there are misconfiguration, we exploit those. We try to exploit resources. Resources can be their storage accounts, can be their automation accounts, a lot, these type of things. So it's totally different. So
Yes.
when we compare traditional pen test as well as
Definitely.
to the
I
Azure.
mean, when it comes to cloud, I think you need to have fair amount of idea of how cloud environments really
Yes,
work.
yes. So if I would say you have to have some knowledge of cloud to at least pen test or red team a Azure environment, right? So Yeah, so you have to have some, at least some basic knowledge of cloud. It's not you have to be a guru in cloud, but at least you should have some starting point where you know the what are managed identities, what are service principles, what are like very common resources that are available in Azure, how are identities managed, how to how do they have I think what's the word, a conditional access policy, how the conditional access policy works, how to bypass them. So this is the small things that they have to know, and then they will be good to do their Azure pen test. Again, they have to learn all the attacks that are present in Azure as well, but at least the basic knowledge will always help to learn the attacks.
Perfect. I would like to ask you one more question. Is that why is Microsoft Entra ID such a major attack surface in real world Azure environments?
Okay, so Entra ID is the, I would say, service or platform, you can say, that provide identity and access management to Azure identities. So so if we are able to get if we are able to find a misconfiguration in this service, the consequences can be devastating, because we can easily become a global admin in Azure environment or in an Entra ID, if there are misconfiguration present in this particular service. So the escalation of privileges is is very very dangerous in terms of abusing Entra ID identities. So if we found even a small misconfiguration, we can chain it to multiple things, and become a high privilege, not always a global administrator, but a high privilege user that can have permissions to do anything. So yeah, we can, that's why it is such a lucrative service, you can say, Entra ID. So many of the identities depends on it. So that's why we this is one of the most important services when we look at the pen test.
Great. What are the most common Azure RBAC service principal and managed identity misconfigurations that you have seen in your client
Yes.
environments?
So when talking about service principles, so the main issue that I have seen is the leakage of the credentials. So in many resources like automation accounts, storage accounts, credentials are lying here and there, right? And for the service accounts, they don't have any mandatory MFA as well. So if we have found a credential, then we can use this credential. And if there are over permissive roles that are attached to the credentials, to the service principal whose credential we have found, then we can abuse those roles to move laterally or escalate our privileges. Same goes with managed identities. So if the managed identity is overly permissive, we can easily abuse them and escalate our privileges. Again, and why these misconfigurations are happening in these service principal, or maybe let's say managed identity, the main reason is because the administrators are lazy, and just to make things work, they provide high level privileges to these identities, and they don't follow the principle of least privilege. That is the reason the misconfiguration keep coming in these identities, service principal as well as managed identities, and we can find credentials easily for this. That's why they are such lucrative identities for attackers. Because if, let's suppose, if attacker has found a credential of a user, then they might have to bypass conditional access policy or MFA if they are in place, things like that. But for service principals or managed identity, they don't have to bypass them. They can directly use it.
Okay, perfect. Now, the next question is really interesting because even you have had a fair amount of experience in Windows red teaming as well, as you rightly said in the
Yes.
start, and now you are in cloud. So, how do attackers typically move from initial access to privilege escalation and persistence in an Azure environment?
Okay, so if we take a look at current scenario, okay, so previously the one of the easier way to get access to get a foothold in Azure environment is the password spray attack. But again, I think Microsoft has worked a lot in the security department, and the reason because they have been hacked because of a password spray attack. So that's why they have taken the password spray attack very seriously, and have by default implemented MFA for all the user identities, right? So that is one of the footholds, one of the ways we get foothold earlier. But again, since Microsoft has fixed that, I think it's now it's mostly about phishing based attacks or attacking applications that might give us a remote code execution on the system, and that system might have some managed identity. Yeah, but main attacks that we have been seeing is the phishing based attacks. Generally, it is the device code phishing attack that we have seen. I think recently Microsoft also has published a research that I think 90 more than 90% of the attacks that they are seeing are device code phishing. Okay, so yeah, that's the main idea. That's the main thing that company should be worried about is the phishing based attacks, because that is how attackers are getting foothold
Access.
access in the cloud environment. Also, another way to get access is there are credential brokers out there, where attackers can easily go to them and purchase the access tokens of the users, right? Previously they used to buy the credentials of of the users. Now it's all about access tokens, because token bypasses the MFA. So they just directly go to these credential broker services and ask for credential for different organizations. Maybe if the credential broker has a token of the maybe a company that the attackers are looking for, they can provide that. Obviously there is involvement of money there as well. Yeah, so that's how the phishing based attacks are the major ones, so that we attackers or pen testers get a foothold. And then once they get full foothold, it's all about how well you enumerate the environment, and the misconfiguration that are present both in Entra ID as well as the Azure. And we can exploit those misconfigurations to escalate our privileges to become a high privilege user. So that's the attack chain. And then obviously if attackers are interested in any information, they will exfiltrate that, obviously with the high level privilege that they have. Plus they can easily also establish foothold in Azure. It's very easy, and since many of the companies are not looking at the logs, the persistence can be for a very 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 long time. They don't even know that attacker is already there in present in their environment. So that's the entire kill chain for Azure. It's similar to your traditional attack chain. Initial access, generally, I'm talking about the chain, but the methods are different. So as I showed you, phishing attack for initial access, misconfiguration for a privilege escalation, and again there are many techniques for persistence and data exfiltration.
I
Fantastic.
think that was a very fantastic overview from your side, Sashi. You very well laid out as what newer vectors are there in Azure environments and scraping out all of the previous ones like password spring attacks. So we have seen in this curriculum, we have key vaults, storage accounts, VMs, app services, functions, logic apps, and automation accounts. So why are these services actually important from an attacker's perspective?
Okay, so the reason why these services are important and why we have covered these particular services specifically, because Azure has like around more than hundreds of services. Obviously, we cannot cover all of the services because of the limitation of time, and also because company don't use all these services frequently. So there are some plethora, not plethora, there are some few like 10 to 20 services that companies are using regularly, and that's where misconfiguration keep happening. So that's why we have put our focus also on these particular services that you mentioned. Yeah, that is the main reason we are covering these particular services.
Perfect. And like you cover conditional access bypass, MFA evasions, and detection evasion techniques. Why should defenders understand how these bypasses work?
Okay, so the reason that defender should also, actually, by the way, this course is also for the defenders as well. And why a defender should learn these techniques, so that they can fix the loopholes that they might leave in their conditional access policies, all MFA enforcements. So if they take this course, understand the things that attackers are doing to bypass these things, they can fix those things and make their defense better.
Great. Like I really like the perspectives because even we as security consultants just not do the part of attacking stuff. We
Yes,
say make
yes,
sure and tell them how to secure them in the best way.
exactly.
Great. And how does this bootcamp prepare students for real Azure pen tests, including tooling, methodology, reporting, and CAZPT exam preparation?
Okay, so again, this bootcamp will be practical heavy. They obviously they are going to get a lab where they can practice all the techniques that they have learned, all the tools that they have learned. Plus, there is a component of writing your own tools, because again, Azure is mostly so Azure has well documented APIs that attackers are already using. Students also can use those API to create their own tools, instead of relying on someone else else tools. And by tooling, they will also understand how the attacks are working, behind the scenes. So that's why students should be taking this course or the boot camp, I can say, because they will first learn the methodology, right? The attacker mindset, then how to write their own tools, and how to write a better report. Because as the name says, it's a Azure pen testing bootcamp. So in a pen test, we provide report to the client with all the issues, remediations, etc., etc. That will be also taught in this particular bootcamp, so that students will be ready to take on Azure pen tests for them. Yeah, so that's what they will gain, and obviously they are going to earn the CAZPT certification, so that they can also show off their skills to other potential clients, companies, so that they can also gain a job in that particular department, the Azure.
And again, so one last question before we wrap up the podcast. Who is the ideal student for this Azure pen testing bootcamp, and what practical skills will they walk away with?
Okay, I think anyone who is interested in Azure will obviously be a candidate. So I think students, any again, students will be the best candidate who have like basic understanding of cloud concepts, basic understanding of what do you say, pen testing, basic PowerShell knowledge or scripting knowledge. That will obviously help not only for Azure but any other pen testing domain. Then we have cybersecurity professionals who are already doing the red team assessments. They are a good candidate for learning Azure. And apart from that, I can say cloud security engineers, defenders are also good candidate for this particular boot camp. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that this is going to be practical heavy boot camp where students will be doing the stuff with me. Okay, and we are also going to be giving them a month of lab access where they can sharpen their skills whatever they have learned in the boot camp. So that's the takeaway that they should take from this particular boot camp is the lab and the skills, and the different skills or the attack methodology that they are learning.
Perfect. That being said, any closing remarks from your side, Sashika?
Yeah, I think one closing remark I have, not much, is that companies are moving from on-prem to cloud. I think people who are stuck with testing on-prem, they should see the migration very seriously and learn AWS pen testing, Azure pen testing, GCP pen testing, so that they can provide more value to the clients who have migrated their environments to cloud. So yeah, so take this bootcamp and upskill yourself and make Azure a secure environment.
Amazing, Sashikant. It was really great having you on the
Thank you, Tarak.
podcast. And in case if you're new to Redfox Security, let me just introduce you to all of the things that we do. At Redfox, we provide end-to-end client penetration tests ranging in fields like Active Directory, web applications, and lot more. All of the services related part are available on our website, that is https://redfoxsec.com. Apart from that, we have a lot of educational content which includes boot camps, courses. All of that is available on our academy.redfoxsec.com. And if you want to know more information about the Azure bootcamp, you can always go on academy.redfoxsec.com and check out the course curriculum, content, and the instructors over there. Apart from that, as you can see on YouTube, we pump a lot of educational content. So do make sure that you're liking and subscribing our YouTube channel. And I will see you in the next one as always.